Hello and welcome to the North vs. South podcast, a podcast about gaming, technology, movies and TV. This week we talk about the new technologies that Xbox have brought out to bring older games new life, American TV as a UK viewer and the differences in culture, and Tommy finally discovers how to actually use a microphone.
So Josh, did you hear about the recent announcement of FPS boost for Xbox?
Yeah, it looks pretty interesting. There's quite a few games that they've put in there. I think it's quite nice the way that Microsoft are kind of bringing in sort of like better ways to play games that, you might have been playing for the last like 15 years or so.
I think it's good, but the problem I have with it,
Why do you have a problem with it?
I have a problem with it because some of the games, not all of the games, but some of the games, they're using the Xbox One S or the first Xbox One code.
Yeah.
So that means you are getting, say, like if a game was 30 frames per second, and then it's jumped up to 60 frames per second, the resolution goes down to 900p because the original, well, it's not the original, but the first Xbox One and the Xbox One S couldn't really handle 1080p gaming. The CPU and I think the GPU just wasn't capable. So developers were like, well, if we limit the resolution down to 900p, then we get a steady frame rate. But then if you got an Xbox Series X, it's cool that you can play a game at 60 frames or 120 frames per second. But then if you're downscaling the resolution, is it something you really want? I'd rather take the 30 frames per second and then a higher resolution like 4K or 1080p.
Do you know? Okay, I mean, I hadn't considered that there was any resolution changes at all, but I think going from 30 to 60, you have to do it. Like if you play games at 30 and you played them at 60, like there is a noticeable difference. The difference between 60 and 120 is obviously going to be there, but I think it's much more palatable to play the games at 60. If I'm honest, like I suppose I wasn't expecting all of these games to be like 1080 or 4K to begin with at all. So
Well, yeah,
like when they were originally, like obviously the 360 games, they're not 1080, so it should. I mean,
yeah, but they've gone back. Like say with the Xbox One X, when the Xbox One X came out, they went back and they made those games 4K compatible, like Red Dead Redemption,
right?
Final Fantasy 13, and then with those games, they said, okay, you can actually hit the target of like 30 frames per second, but with the new Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, you can reach a higher frame rate, but there is a bit of a grey area about this resolution. Like if it's, say if a game, I think like Deus Ex Revolution, I think that never got an Xbox One X patch for like 4K, so it's going to be running the 900p code on the Xbox One S. So I don't know, would you rather just play it on PlayStation on a higher resolution or even PC? Like,
well, I'm not assuming those are options. If you're in the Xbox ecosystem,
yeah,
like I feel like you're wishing for the moon on games consoles, and we're just not fully there yet. You're constantly. It's like, oh, we've quickly gone from 720 to 4K through the various 360, Xbox One, and Xbox Series, and obviously in the middle there's been 900, 60 FPS at various resolutions and 4K and everything. You can't get 4K 60 without powerful hardware. Depending on the game, you're not going to get 4K 60 or 1080 120, but to have like 1080 60 or 1080 120, on games that are not new, it's just a nice thing to have. Like, you're getting something as a player, you're getting something for free that you wouldn't necessarily have gotten without either having spent money on another console. Like, I know you could say, oh, you've gone from a 360 to an Xbox Series, so you have spent the money, but like I say, I mean, we've got Xboxes, so we're going to continue with the Xbox route. We might get a PlayStation, but primarily we're looking at Xboxes. Do you see what I mean? Like, you're saying you can play it at 1080p on the PS4 or the PS5, but that's not the family of consoles that we're in, not necessarily the family of consoles that the people who are going to benefit from these games are in. And obviously the same with the PC. Like, a gaming PC that's going to play some of these games at stupidly high resolutions and 60 FPS or higher is going to cost like 3 times the cost of an Xbox Series. So I think it's okay to have games that only run at 1080 but have a smooth 60 or higher FPS. Like, that's 1080 60 is the minimum bar that people are they're gonna be comfortable. I know we've said in the past, I've started to play Red Dead Redemption, the first one, and you can tell that it's a 30 FPS game. And playing it on the 360 versus playing it on the Xbox One, you can tell that it's a much more stable frame rate on the Xbox One, and it's just more. It's more pleasant having it stable. And if that was one of the games that was in the FPS boost games, so that it was then 60 FPS, it would be nice. It doesn't matter that it's not higher resolution, because we do know that it's a game of its time. It's like playing Portal 1 on a brand new computer. It's like all the textures are still from 2005 or whenever the game came out, but you can run it at like 300 frames per second, and there is a difference between playing it on a computer now versus back then, even if the resolutions aren't any higher. Does that make sense?
It kind of does, but
the games aren't prettier, so having the 4K having 4K resolution, I don't see as an important thing if the textures in the game aren't improved, or other things in the game like lighting and shadows and everything like that. If those things aren't made any better, there's no real point in having a higher resolution. If you play Portal, if you play Counter-Strike at 4K, everything's just going to have more pixels, but it doesn't make the game look prettier. But playing it at 60 or 100 FPS versus 30 is a massive difference. Way more important difference, maybe. Better thing to say.
But my argument is, you're saying that, or having a PC is going to cost you a lot of money. We're talking about, these are games that have come out before, and then now they've been brought forward in terms of their frame rates. Surely any PC from the last 5 years should be able to play most of these games,
right? But
at a higher resolution, probably even a better frame rate.
But that's kind of unfair. Like, you want to say, because gaming PCs are more powerful. Like, even a gaming PC, when those games were released, it's not an apples to apples comparison. In any real way. So I think it's fine if you're thinking about a person who only has one gaming console. You and I are not, we're not the majority of people. We've got multiple gaming PCs, we've got multiple gaming consoles. Most people just have like one relatively okay gaming PC or gaming laptop, or they'll have a console or something. And it's okay for a console to make improvements. Like, I'm not... in isolation, I don't know why anyone would have a problem with what they're doing.
For me, if someone's... one of the games is Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
And that never received... and for the Xbox One X, that never received a patch for like a higher resolution or higher frame rate. So you're stuck to playing that game at 720p.
Right.
And most displays are at least 1080p or 4K. Could you imagine? That would drive me nuts, knowing the fact that I'm playing the game at 720p.
Yeah, but you're not. But you're not most people. Most people genuinely don't know the difference between 720 and 1080p. Genuinely.
It would drive me insane.
Yes, but you're a special case. You don't see the difference. You just know it exists and it annoys you. Like, that's the difference. Most, obviously the biggest difference in 1080 and 720p does come in how crisp everything looks. And that is most noticeable when it comes to text. But video games don't get things like clear text, which you would get on a Word document, for instance. So all text will look slightly blurry until you get to 4K resolutions. You know, because text in game isn't real text; it's basically being displayed as a picture or a video stream. So it doesn't get the clear text treatment that you'd get on a website or whatever. That's kind of built in between the monitors and the graphics. You know, all that sort of like subsystem that's going on. So it's always going to look slightly blurry until you get to resolutions that are so massive that you can pack them into like tiny pixels so that you can't see them anymore. But gaming consoles just aren't quite there yet for the majority of games, and the ones that are there are, they're the Series X, they're the PS5s, they're very expensive, they're very hard to get, and the games that can run at 4K 60 are, you know, there's not too many of them yet, and like you said, they have to be patched to be unlocked to run at those resolutions on the consoles. It isn't like on PC where a lot of games can run at whatever resolution that you kind of let it run at.
Yeah, I would say probably like it's down to the developers as well to come in, or there's something needs to be like agreement that something's going to get done in terms of a patch. But yeah, I know. Of course, it's not a bad thing. At least they're trying to still give love and care to some of these older titles, and you know, buying new hardware. At least you're getting something out of these old games that you've collected in the past.
And who's doing the work here? Microsoft or the game developers, or are these all games that Microsoft have a finger in the pie of?
I'm not sure.
Because I noticed Red Dead's not on there. GTA probably isn't.
I'm not entirely sure with that. I think Microsoft have something to do it. It's like there's a technique that they're using where it doesn't require an actual patch. It's they're like forcing it. They're like feeding more frames, and then I'm not sure how technically it works, but I think Microsoft are doing it by forcing the game to run at a higher frame rate. That probably is why they can't up the resolution, because that might need a patch then, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's gonna be half the thing. Like, what you can do in a graphic card with frames is probably going to be easier as a hardware vendor to what you can do in terms of resolution. Because like I say, adding more resolution doesn't make things look prettier. It just doesn't. In some cases, it makes games look worse. Like, I've played games... so Age of Empires is one of them. You know, I spent all my years playing Age of Empires at 8x600 or 1024x768, and it looked all right at those resolutions. Now you get the HD, even the HD version, you play it at 1080p, and there's just these little weird things that, because the game hasn't been it's not been overhauled, some things just look a bit too busy at the small resolutions, and other things just don't quite work. So like I think there's only like one zoom scale. Like, one thing you used to be able to do in the old version was changing the resolution would change how much, almost be like how zoomed in you were. Where nowadays it's it's 1080p because that's what your monitor is. So if you run anything less than that, it's going to be all blurry. So you've only got one zoom level, whereas back in the old days on CRTs and everything, you could change the resolution and it would still look fine. So there's no... That is a game that has got a 1080p, and maybe it goes higher than 1080. I don't know. I've only got 1080p monitors, but it doesn't really benefit from having more resolution. I'm not sure that's a game that would benefit more from any more FPSs either, but if you're going to increase resolution in a game, there has to be other reasons to do it. Like you've gone through and you've given it upscale textures and other things going on.
So I'm just looking through the list now. I'm just wondering, is there any games that you actually want to then be like added to the list in terms of...
Well, I've already alluded to Red Dead Redemption. That was the first game I was looking for.
Yeah. I'm kind of excited about Titanfall 2. That game would be awesome playing that at 120 frames per second, I gotta say. But, yeah. I think that's the game I would really like. I think like Fallout is on there. And Skyrim.
Oh, you got Tomb Raider, such an old game that's on there as well. The first of the new ones.
I suppose if you're an Xbox One Series S owner, you might feel a little bit hard done by it because some of the games on the Series X are 120, and then some of them you won't be able to. It doesn't support it on the Series S.
Why would you feel hard done by? Like, you know that the Series X is a more powerful console. Like, if you're buying the Series S, you know that it's less capable. They can't run miracles. It's like buying a BMW and being surprised when a Ferrari overtakes you.
Well, yeah. Well, they could like say if a game was running at 30, I suppose like if a game's running at 60 and then it's been upgraded to 120. Then there's nothing really much they can do. But if
the people who own a Series S aren't the type of person who will own a monitor that will run a game at 120 frames. Think about it. Series S's are more likely going to be owned by people who aren't enthusiasts or simply cannot afford 120 FPS screens. The people who own a Series X are more likely to be in that market, so there's just no reason to try and push for that kind of performance from the Series S.
There are some 120 Hz games though, to be fair, on the Series S.
Yeah, there are quite a few. Like obviously, the Plants vs Zombies. That's basically a mobile game, so that obviously can't be too hard.
Star Wars Battlefront.
What's the benefit of running at 120 frames per second on a console over just 60? Like, if you're playing with a controller which is wireless, you don't have the super fast input reaction. So things like, I know it's a PlayStation exclusive, but like if you're playing Destiny 2, where you can play against PC users now because they've got crossplay.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you think having a higher frames per second is going to be helpful, but if you're playing through a controller, you're not going to be as responsive as someone playing on a keyboard and mouse. So really, who needs 120 frames per second on a console?
Well, that's a good question.
It's nice to have, but
yeah.
Like, I think 60 FPS is what they should be aiming for everything. And that's when you can say, oh, can we push this 900 game to, can we upscale it to 1080? This game, can we get it to 4K 60? 120 is just, it's just a contest, really. It's not actually needed.
Yeah. So, I suppose...
But there's more to the announcement than that, though, I was reading. You've got Auto HDR.
Yeah, that's I was looking at that too. Yeah, also HDR. That's going to be interesting. So games that never really supported HDR are going to have HDR as well.
So the question is, how is that going to work, and how do you make sure that games don't look stupid? Because if it's automatic, what triggers the HDR, and how are they making sure that like say a torch doesn't blind you or something.
I thought there was some sort of like before the Series X and Series S came out, they were like they were showing off a setting where you can add HDR to a game that never supported it, and then people were saying, well, it doesn't really work for this game, it doesn't really work for that game. So I suppose they must have gone through these games and tested them and made sure that the HDR is working. They must have revised that, but there's no point adding HDR.
Yeah, but what I mean is like, so obviously they've got 2 games here, Subnautica and Fusion Frenzy, and Fusion Frenzy is the one I'm looking at. The colours are more vibrant.
Yeah.
There could conceivably be a situation where a game looks decidedly different than what the developer wanted it to look like. Think about horror games, where you want it to be dark and dingy, and you're designing a level where they can barely see what they're doing. If the game suddenly has auto HDR on it, they can see a lot more than you want them to see, and they'll do better in the level than you necessarily want them to do.
Yeah, it's a valid point.
It's just about if you're designing, you're just designing a level based on having standard definition range.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly they can see a lot better, and it's like, oh well, it's gone from hard game to easy.
Yeah, I that is an interesting point you make about
that. Just feels like a marketing hitting a marketing point, doesn't it? It's like marketing came up with a feature and told the developer team how to that they need to develop it.
Have you experienced HDR though on a 4K TV?
No. Only I've been to Curry's and I've seen like the demo reel, but I wouldn't say that's experienced it. But what I mean is, like, you're saying, have I experienced a film that has been designed to be HDR? That's the thing. If something has been designed to be shown in HDR, obviously it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's true.
But if something has been automatically created into HDR, there is the scope that the HDR goes too far, and turns it into something that just looks weird.
Yeah, I would agree with what you're saying.
And obviously, you'll be able to go in and turn it off if you don't want it, I would hope.
Yeah, that makes sense what you're saying. So like, it could change the color palette of the game. It could look completely different to what you remember, or it could even improve it. But if you
a lot of it is a matter of taste as well. Like, 2 people are going to see the same thing, and someone's going to love it, and someone's going to hate it. So
yeah, but it's a feature that's there, and I don't think Sony are offering anything like this.
No, I was going to ask: is there anything on the Blue team? Is there nothing?
Well, in terms of HDR, like going back and adding a HDR to games.
Yeah.
Well, they're only offering PS4 games, aren't they? As backwards compatible. Wow, they're offering I think PS2 games on the PlayStation Network that they've offered before on the PS4, and that just runs on an emulator. But there are some PS4 games that do support HDR, because I have my PS4 hooked up to my 4K TV, and it says, "Oh, do you want to enable HDR?" Yes. So yeah, there are some, but older games like PS3 and PS2, I suspect that no, they're not going to be any HDR. So this is what Microsoft are doing. It's pretty cool in terms of, oh, here's this feature, here's a new feature, try it out, see what you think. That's what next gen is about: adding features, adding new things, trying to improve the old games. And at least they still got a love for it. At least they're saying, well, let's not forget about, because at the minute there's not a lot of games, new games.
No, there isn't.
So they're doing the right thing. They're like, well, we've got all of these games on Game Pass, and we're going to improve these games as well. So why not subscribe to Game Pass? Why not?
We see, obviously, Microsoft are doing everything that they can to bring value to their platform. And I think you said a couple of episodes ago, PlayStation have won this round. The PS5 has won over the Xbox Series. So this is what Microsoft is doing to win people over.
Well, I think PlayStation as a console has won over Microsoft as an Xbox brand as a console, but I think Microsoft have clearly won over a distribution service compared to Sony with Game Pass.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Like I don't always, I often look at the library and I think it looks a bit rubbish, but that just makes me decide to pay for it when I want to play a couple of games, as opposed to just playing for it constantly. The fact that Sony doesn't have anything comparable at the moment, I just find that slightly absurd.
I think they do, but they're offering like previous gen games, like PS4 games. They're not offering anything. I'm not sure about this, but what I heard is they're only offering like
PlayStation Now.
Well, yeah.
They've always had PS Now though. I thought that was just where they gave you 2 games every month, a bit like Xbox Gold.
No, so PlayStation.
Or has it changed? Is that what it used to be?
No. So they originally started with PlayStation Plus. They were to be fair. They were the first ones to offer free games, and then Microsoft followed suit. So it started off with PlayStation Plus, and they said, "Oh, if you subscribe to PlayStation Plus, we'll give you."
Yeah, but that's but those games were gold in that they were games that basically that you would then own, as opposed to renting to a service, isn't it?
You would own only if you keep subscribed to that service.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I ever
only
got a game with gold.
Only for Xbox One. If you get an Xbox, if they gave you like an Xbox 360 or an Xbox original game, then you can keep it. It's yours for forever.
Right.
But I haven't currently got an Xbox One Gold or Game Pass or anything subscription.
So according to PlayStation's website, though, they've got you can stream over 700 PS4, PS3, and PS2 titles.
Yeah, that's PlayStation Now.
You can pick from 300 PS4 games to download to your console.
Yeah.
So that sounds like Game Pass, but with a lot more games in it. But
I didn't know if they gave it a different name, or is it just all the same? Because they got a streaming service, and yeah, they do offer you can download PS4 games. But why would you want to do that? Like, at the minute, like PS4 games are so cheap. If you look online, there's people posting like PS4 games for like a $5, like Asda.
Yeah, but
stuff like that.
I mean, that's the thing with everything. It's like, why pay for Netflix when you can go get films for £1?
Yeah, it's true. It's like
it's the convenience is nice.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is I just don't like physical media for games.
Really?
I really don't. I would be. And obviously we had that whole conversation last episode, but I get annoyed when I have to when I have to change cartridges on the Switch.
Really?
So we tend to leave Mario Kart in there, but sometimes Jen will play Pokemon, and it annoys me that I can't just play Mario Kart again. I've got to switch it out. No pun intended. And I get annoyed that Red Dead we got on disc. I'm half tempted to buy Red Dead on the Microsoft Store so that I don't have to keep changing the disc over. I like just being able to pick a game and it just loads. Or we're that family that takes a games console with us when we go on holiday. It would be nice to just take the console and not a stack of games with it. Because taking a single console is quite simple. Taking a console and the equivalent space in games, it's a lot more space it takes up. So it's nice for me just to be able to do something like buy the digital version or use, have Game Pass and just have them downloaded and just ready to play whenever I want to.
No, I'm always physical media, because I think that stems from my past of like collecting PS2 games and just physically having the disc. I'd never ever buy digital games, especially the only thing I have, of course, is like buy games off Steam, But Steam have a very good service where they have like Steam sales, and you can pick stuff up for like £2, £5, £5, £10. Where if you buy it on the Microsoft Marketplace or Sony's PlayStation Network, you're still paying like maybe like £10 more than the average physical price,
I don't think you are these days. I say I don't think you are. No, you're not. You know, I bought.
Unless you get it secondhand.
No, that's not true at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Come on. So, I think if say like the new Resident Evil Village has just come out, of course, you're not gonna get it secondhand like day one, are you? You might have to wait a while, maybe a month, and you might see copies, you know, and then there might be a little bit of a discount than buying it brand new.
There's so few discounts these days. You know, retailers, they're greedy. They'll charge you the same price as the digital version.
Yeah, and the problem with that is that they get 100% of the profit.
Who does?
The people reselling the second-hand game because once it's...
No, I'm talking about like game. Like if you go buy Red Dead Redemption 2 at Game on day one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's the same price as online.
Well, yeah.
Unless they're doing, you know, the only exception is if they're doing like two £60 games for £100. You know, like if you're buying a single game, whether you buy the digital version or the CD version, it's basically going to be the same price. I mean, maybe Game might try and sell some games off cheap if they've got like loads of inventory, but if you're buying a game when it's, I don't know, like.
Well, the thing is, I have seen a trend of something that I don't like is when you buy a physical copy now, you used to get a manual, and now you don't really ever get a manual with the game. Nope. And you're like, well, you know, back in only like 10 years ago, you used to get manuals, you know, and that comes with the game, and you get some nice artwork as well. You do get that, but you know, you start losing stuff. You just get a disc and that's that, and then you just put it in, and all it does is just reads the disc and says, oh, you got this disc, and then I have to download it from this server. And you might as well just, like you say, just buy the digital version, because it's just gonna download the game anyway. It's just an unlock key, isn't it? The disc. It's like, oh, you have the disc, I'm gonna download it. Well,
it was in the old days. Probably isn't as much anymore. What you're saying though does remind me. I heard recently on a it was a Google product. It was a podcast talking about Google products that have been killed because, you know, there's so many of them.
Stadia.
No, nothing to do with gaming. Nothing to do with gaming. It's about CDs though, and they came up with with this idea of how to deal with the fact that CD sales were sort of slowing down, and they wanted to put an NFC tag inside a CD case, and you'd have this stereo system, or I don't know, maybe you've got like a Google. I think it was like a Google Home sort of thing that you'd have, and you'd tap this NFC tab against your Google doodad, and it would add that album to your Google Music library. That seems all very fine. So you pay your £10, get your CD version, but what this does is it adds it to your Google Music album, so you don't have to rip it, and you can listen to it on your phone whenever you want to. Now, what you can also do is when you want to play it on your stereo, you go get your CD, you tap the CD on this little doodad, and then it plays on your home stereo. So you get the CD out, and then you don't even use the bleeding CD. You just tap in it, and then it's streaming it from Google Music. So it's like, it's the ultimate tea ceremony, and not even benefiting from using the disc. It's just basically just using the CD as a kind of like a calling service.
And that would be crap, because I would presume that you compromise. I know that you don't really care.
You're right. You know, you're going from CD quality to whatever streaming quality was back then. You know, this is this was like 10 years ago as well. So not even like high definition streaming. And I do care about good quality sound. I just don't. I'm not an audiophile, and I don't need it to be pitch perfect. Well, maybe not pitch perfect, but.
The point about games though is like if you're buying a game off the digital version, you're not really losing out now, because like I said, you're not getting a manual, you know, and you have to go to the store.
There's no convenience in it at all,
and you don't know what experience you're going to get at the store either, do you?
Exactly.
But what's
the game that's come out? What did you say? Resident Evil Village. Right.
Go on, have a look. It's like 50, 60.
£48 at John Lewis.
Right.
£55 at Argos.
Okay, but if you look on the Microsoft...
I'm looking at PS5 for no reason other than that's what Google gave me. It's there. I can't spell store. It's there. So $54.99. Huh.
So you would get it cheaper at John Lewis.
You would get it cheaper.
So it looks like John Lewis have got the stock in, but then they're making a cut to then sell more. So they would actually, in theory, they would lose money because they would have to give money to the developers for that batch of goods they've got. But they're taking a hit, so then they're hoping that more people buy it from them. And so there you go. So
no,
physical media...
They've done it. No.
You go on. Go on.
If you look at John Lewis, are you on John Lewis's website?
No, I'm not.
John Lewis's website, you can buy it for £48.
Yeah.
Free delivery over £50.
Okay, fair enough. There you go. So that's the catch.
In these trying times.
I suppose if you're gonna buy something from John Lewis though, anyway, then you might as well do that. But yeah, it's probably gonna be like £3 or £4 delivery charge. Then,
yeah, I'd guess about $4.99, $5.99.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. But I still like having a physical copy. I still like it.
Why?
Because it's on the shelf and I'm like, oh yeah, I got that game. It's over there, yeah.
But the thing with that is, it's a pain in the arse because you've got to change the disc every time you want to change games. The disc can get damaged.
That is true. That is true.
Discs
you get disc rot. Yeah, you can get disc rot.
I don't even mean like disc rot. I mean you have a child. She might eat it. That happens.
It's in the loft,
or you'll find that your PS5 has 7 discs in it because she's fed it 7 games.
What if, Jenna?
Yeah.
What if she saw something online and she's like, I gotta really try that. That looks cool. Maybe I can like hack my Xbox.
What are you talking about?
Well, like say she was playing online and she saw some guy on YouTube that was like, oh, you can do this thing and you just gotta download this thing onto your USB stick and do this and do that, and then your account gets banned, and it means that means all your purchases have gone.
So don't do that.
Or say like someone, like sometimes you play online and sometimes you get banned because they think you're cheating and you're like, you haven't cheated at all, and then you have to prove it and all that, and then all your games, and then you can't play anything.
That's not a problem that I have though. Like, I kind of get what you're going for, but I mean, on the flip side, like we said this last time, you shouldn't get banned. You shouldn't lose your Xbox account just because you cheated in GTA Online. They're two different companies.
It was quite funny. I know this. I had this friend, and he was playing like FIFA, and he was like, FIFA is a very competitive game online. Like people are like really getting emotional, and he literally was screaming down the mic, and he got a message come up saying you've been banned from PlayStation Network for 2 weeks. No joke. So could you imagine?
Now, what he might be banned for is the social connection. Do you get what I mean? So using the network as a way to contact other people.
Yeah.
So
could be.
I'm not saying what is currently in place, but if they're going to say, "Oh, you've been abusive to other players, we are going to ban you from playing that game." Well, first of all, PlayStation shouldn't be able to stop anyone from playing FIFA. That shouldn't be in their power. They're two separate companies.
No,
FIFA is made by Activision or whoever. But if you're playing FIFA and you're using PlayStation's voice servers, that is where Sony has the authority to say you cannot use PlayStation Now. But if you pay for PlayStation Now and that voice talk is only part of what you get, then that is what you should be banned from. You should still be able to play games that you have bought. even if they say you can't use PlayStation Now for 2 weeks, so you can't play, you can't stream games, you can't use games that you've not paid for, but for games that you have bought with actual money and that you quote unquote own, they're not part of PlayStation Now, so you should still be able to play those. Do you see? Like there's lines between them.
Well, I think they let you play it, but they won't let you play online, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. That's okay. That's where the lines should be drawn.
But then, say if you bought a game that's only online, and then you've been banned, then you're like, oh, that's that then.
Yeah, well, that's still your fault for being a dick. But the point is, they become different companies' problems at different points, and doing one of these things shouldn't ban you from all of them. But there will be some crossovers at some points. Being a dick to someone on FIFA and getting banned from playing FIFA would maybe come from Activision, and at the same time, PlayStation says, right, you've been a dick to other players, so we're going to stop you from using PlayStation Now. So now you can't play the game library of PlayStation Now, but you can still access your disc games, and you can still access your non-disc, your digital versions of the games. They're separate from PlayStation Now, so you should still be able to access them. If that isn't the case, if you're a dick to someone on PlayStation Now and you basically can't use your console, like I think that's a huge issue in terms of like anti-consumerism or something. Like PlayStation, Xbox, they shouldn't have that much control over you as a person. They need to do what they need to do to protect the other players on the system, but they don't need to stop you from playing standalone single-player games.
No, I don't think they do that. I think it's online only. I think it'll be online only, because they're like, well, you violated our terms of service and agreement, and then you and to be fair, like 2 weeks is like, it's not too bad. If you're really abusive to other people and you're getting like a bad reputation, then they could just ban you. But yeah, I was going to ask you about have you ever played the Mass Effect games?
I have not.
Not at all?
No.
Well, you're in luck. You're in luck.
Why is that?
Because they've just released Mass Effect Trilogy Remastered for PS4. I think it's on PS5 as well, but you can get it on PS4 and Xbox.
Can I get it on the Xbox?
I think you definitely Xbox
Didn't they come out on the PC recently?
Well, yeah, that's part of this, the remastered trilogy.
No, I don't mean recently. I mean like a couple of years ago. I thought this already happened.
No, so that's the original games. So there was let me go.
Are the original games on PC as well?
Yeah, but the problem with the original games is it only supports mouse and keyboard.
That's not a problem for me.
Well, some people love the controller, isn't it? And it was really annoying.
If the game's designed for keyboard and mouse, then I'll play it
No.
keyboard and mouse.
It was designed for controller, and then it got ported to the PC, and then the PC version never supported.
Okay. So it might actually be a better game with controller.
The thing is, with the remastered version, a lot of negative feedback about the keyboard and mouse, about like
just feels a bit slow.
No, like you can't map certain keys. Everything is like a certain key.
Okay.
And in the original version, it's like, well, you allowed us to map this to that or whatever key we want. Why can't you do it through remaster? But if you haven't played it, I think it's a good trilogy, especially the first 3 games. First 2 games, sorry. The third game's good, but the ending is not very good. But it includes all the DLC. So originally, you have to pay separately for all of that back in the day, and it costs a bit of money. But you're getting all of that content. You're getting 3 games, and it's remastered, new textures, 4K. Yeah, on the latest consoles, I think like PS4 and Xbox One, it'll be like 1080p. But it's definitely worth a look. Mass Effect.
£55 on Steam.
That is a lot, though. That's a lot.
For 3 games? That's less than £20 a game.
Yeah, but these games are. Everyone, like, I'm surprised you haven't played Mass Effect. I'm very surprised, mate.
Yeah, it's I kind of meant to. Is this the one with Shepard?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. I'm aware of it. I just never got it. We might actually own the games. We might have picked it up, but just never really played it. It's like I'm gonna get shot for this. Mass Effect, BioShock, and Halo. They're all games franchises that I just haven't gotten into. I started to play Halo because it was on Game Pass. I just didn't really like how it felt in terms of like just I don't know. I didn't even get past the first mission.
Really? Which one? Halo Combat Evolved?
The first one. I just started with the first one.
Yeah, Halo Combat Evolved.
And they're taking you through the tutorial, and I was like, I'm just not enjoying it. So I just kind of.
To be fair, that game was made like in the 2000.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I have this. It's like sometimes it's like I want to start with the first game because it's the first in the series, but it doesn't always play the best. It's like I've got Just Cause series. I've got all 4 games. I started with number 3. Well, technically I started with number 2, but that crashed, so I went to number 3. And I've tried to go back to the first game, which must have been released in like 2005 or something. It feels like a PS2 game.
Yeah, I that's how I played it first time on the PS2.
It feels like because it's got the whole gang sort of system. It feels like San Andreas.
All I cared about was the parachute thing. That's all I cared about.
Well, that's the problem, because the parachute system in 3 is more advanced than the parachute system in 1. So it's like it's like going backwards. So, but BioShock again, I got a little bit the way through, and I don't know, just I'm not huge into horror-esque. I know it's not properly horror, but it was a bit too thriller. Is that a better way to say it? Thrillery.
I love that game. How dare you?
I'm sure it's a great game. It's just not for me. There was just too much. There was just too much like suspense.
Yeah.
It's like hiding. It's like hiding in the roof above the big brutes and the little girls, the big daddies. Is that what they're called? Yeah, it's like you're kind of sneaking around them, and it's like it just felt too high pressure, and I was like, I'm just not into it.
Well, I gotta say, Mass Effect, you've got to give that a shot at least.
Okay. When it's on Steam sale, I'll pick it up.
Yeah, I would definitely not pick it up. What I was trying to say is, I first played the second game, and then I went back to play the first game. And the first game, there is a lot of flaws, but it's still, like, in terms of gameplay mechanics, like, I think on the 360, on the PS3, the frame rate wasn't really good either. It was like a bit jaggy. But it had a good story, and the combat wasn't very good. So they improved that. So with the sequel, they managed to improve on it. And I think the second one is the best. That second game is really, I put that as a good 9 out of 10 game. Definitely. Yeah, definitely not pay £55, because I was expecting you just to say, yeah, I've played it at some point. And if you've played it before and you own these games, definitely not pay £55. It's way too much money. I would wait until maybe like 15 quid, something like that, 20 quid. Honestly, it's not like, and if it comes to it, I would even like just pick up the original games on Xbox 360, and then you can play. I think you can play it on back compat on the Xbox One.
Yeah, I think they might even be on Game Pass.
Yeah, so if they're on,
or at least I think they have been at some point.
I think the first game is definitely.
Well, now that this is out, it might not be.
Or they might. Well, I don't know. They won't do that.
They'll probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they'll have pulled it so that they can obviously sell more of this.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you own the game, then you get a free upgrade, but they're not going to do that. That's such an old game. But did you hear about the news about Metro Exodus?
Oh, no, it is on. Mass Effect is on now.
Oh, what, Game Pass?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're probably the first game, but not the 2 and 3.
all of them.
Oh, really?
Mass Effect 2, 3, Andromeda, and Andromeda.
Don't play that one.
No, I know. I've heard it. That's the one that came out like 3 years ago. I've heard of that one.
I try to get into that. It's all right, but it's just nowhere near the original 3. Nowhere near, man. But what I was gonna say, Metro Exodus. That's really shaped up the graphics card scene, though, hasn't it?
Oh yes, yep.
Did you hear about like that game? To play the enhanced version, you need a graphics card that supports ray tracing. Otherwise, it won't work.
Oh well, okay, I'll pick that up. It looks like a cross between The Division and what's the one that just came out recently?
Have you not played that game?
The Division?
No, Metro Exodus.
No.
You not played it?
No, I don't play every single game.
Oh my lord.
What? Sorry. Have you played it?
Yeah.
Did you pay for it?
No, I had the pound Game Pass thing back in.
Well, there you go. That I don't. 40 quid's a lot of money.
Oh yeah, well it was on Game Pass.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. But anyway, it looks like a cross between The Division and that game. I feel like everyone's going on about, not Keanu Reeves.
What? Cyberpunk?
No, not Cyberpunk. It's another game. It's like I have like hover bikes, I think.
It's a semi-open world game. Semi. It's good. It's like you need. My GTX 980 struggled, and this is not even the enhanced version. You need a proper decent GPU. And
I got a 2070 Super.
Yeah, you'll be fine. But
because the recommended is 1070 or RTX 2060.
Yeah, it's a bit of a beef. You need a pretty beefy graphics card to play it, but yeah. So like they made an enhanced version just for ray tracing, and I think that's where it's gonna go. Unfortunately, it's like next few, like I'm not saying like maybe another year, and then they'll be like, well, you can only play these games if you got ray tracing. Yeah, if your graphics card supports it, which yours does, I think.
Yeah, I got RTX.
So you're okay. So I'm not. I'm still on my 980. I think I'll just stay on my 980 to be fair.
Well, there's fat chance you can do anything about it now.
Graphics card's just too much.
My graphic card, I mean, there's a new listing at 500 quid.
You was going to sell that to me though, wasn't you, for like 200?
No, I wasn't. I was joking. That was
a joke.
Obviously, I wasn't going to sell it to you.
Come on, man. You was going to sell it for like 200 quid. I was like, man, that is a lot of money. And now thinking about it, I was like, why didn't I snap that up? I could have made a real big profit out of that. You know what I mean? You just said you saw one for 500 quid.
Yeah.
A listing. Right.
Yeah, but that's a new listing.
How much did you buy it for?
I have no idea.
You can't remember?
No, it was a pre-build.
Oh, so it all came over. Did they not break it down with the components and stuff?
No, because it was a pre-build.
Oh, right.
They break down the items, but everything is like 0. And then the total price is 1,200.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I think the only line items that had a plus on them were the upgrades. So where I went from Windows 10 to Windows 10 Pro, that was like plus 30, but everything was basically 0 because it was included in the original £1,200 price. I think from memory though, the graphic card at the time was about £500 or £600. So actually, like these prices on eBay aren't too bad if they sell for that price.
Yeah, but let's be fair. That's been how old is that GTX 20? What do you got? 2070.
It's 2070 Super.
That's quite old now. It's
not quite old now.
2 years old now.
It's second generation of the previous generation, or second revision of the previous generation. That's not old. Yours is like 4 generations old. Mine is 1 generation old, or 1 and 3, I suppose.
Yeah, that's. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for a sweet spot to buy one. Buy a new graphics card. I'm waiting for that point where it's cheap enough and it's still powerful enough. Like there's a sweet spot between how good it is and being a lower price card.
Yeah, there's not going to be for a couple of years now. That's what it seems to be like. If you want to buy a graphic card now, you've just got to swallow it.
Oh no.
Or you've got to wait.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not in any rush at all. No rush.
Anyway, so
Yes.
Tommy, you like football?
Okay. Yeah.
Ted Lasso?
Who?
Ted Lasso.
Who's he?
It's a TV show.
Oh, I saw you post about that actually.
I did last night. Just finished its season 1.
What's that on? Netflix.
It's on Apple TV Plus.
What is that about? Because I have no idea.
It is about an American football coach coming over and coaching a what's higher,
Get it right.
Premier League or Championship League? They're playing
Oh, my
against
God.
Arsenal, and they like Manchester City. So whatever league that is,
Right.
he comes and coaches a team in that league.
It's not a league, mate. It's a competition. It's the Champions League you're describing there, mate.
Mate, I have no idea about football, but that's the point.
You know. I just said it's not a league, and then I said it's the Champions League. Oh,
But like, I know
Oh,
nothing
God.
about football. Neither does my wife, and I tell you, we both enjoyed the hell out of it.
so it's an American.
It's a good show. It's only 10 episodes long, so it's not a huge commitment. It's fun. It's a fun TV show. It's funny. It's like it's a comedy.
Is it real?
No,
Oh, it's not.
no.
Oh,
No. It's like I don't know. It's just I wouldn't compare it, but it's written by the same guy who wrote Scrubs.
oh, okay.
So and
I'm not trying to be like offensive to Americans, but I can't see an American coach come into then coach in the Champions League.
that is the entire
Joke.
point.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Give it 2 episodes. Give it 2 episodes, and see what you think. But it's a good fun TV show, and it's only half an hour long, so it's like barely 5 hours.
I don't know. For me, I don't think I would like the point of view of an American point of view of football, and then them calling it soccer, and then to me it's just like they don't understand.
This is the story about an American coming over. They don't spend 10 episodes not understanding football, obviously. There is a learning process that happens throughout the episodes. That's part of it. But of course, there's all the silly jokes between the Americanisms and the Britishisms. I think Americans can watch it and laugh at all the things that the British people, the British people and the American people will find different aspects funny. They'll find the opposite things funny. So the British people laugh at one thing which the Americans don't get, and all the American people will laugh at another thing which the British people won't get. And that's one of the interesting things about this TV show. So I think it's quite good. I think you should give it a chance, or give it a go.
Yeah. You're just talking about like the difference between like an American point of view and a British point of view. Have you ever watched The Office?
I watched 5 minutes of the British version. Hated it so much I turned it off. I can't do farcical humour. So I don't do well watching things like Fawlty Towers or Only Fools and Horses. Basically, if you when you get that second-hand embarrassment for the character on screen.
You don't like Fawlty Towers? Come on, man.
I find it painful to watch.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, come on.
As in, no, you're not listening to me. The second-hand embarrassment for the character on screen is what I find painful. It's not like I'm saying, oh, it's such a bad show. No, what I'm saying is it's such a good show. However, the situations and that and the way that they respond to them, I just can't stomach it.
I love it. I love it. I love seeing the reactions.
Many people do love it, and I just don't. I just don't.
Well, I like the fact like 40 Towers is like, you're like, how did you get into this situation? And he's trying to, like, sometimes he tries to get out of a situation, and you're like, well, yeah, that might work, but then you're like, oh no, he hasn't thought about this, and that's what's funny about it.
Yeah, but here's the thing about basically every comedy pre-2000, not having access to a handheld telephone / mobile phone, and in some instances the internet, massively changes how things would turn out. So that episode of 40 Towers where he doesn't know how to make a screwdriver, and there's a whole episode where he doesn't know how to make this drink, and it's like, well, we'd find out in 3 minutes because you just Google what's the screwdriver. Whereas they made a whole episode out of it because back in whenever they shot that episode, the internet didn't exist. So how would you find out what a screwdriver was? You'd have to go to the library and hope they have a book on American cocktails.
Or a prawn lawn salad?
Yeah, maybe.
Remember that one? The American? I want a prawn lawn salad. And he's like, a what? A prawn lawn salad. And then because he let the chef go off early. Oh, he paid him off. Like, well, he wanted to pay him off, but then the chef was like, well, no, I don't want that money. I'm going off to do something else. So then he decided to be the chef that night, and then the guy's like asking all these weird recipes and stuff for him to make, and he's like, well, the chef doesn't know how to make it. Can you know? And then he starts having a go at the chef, but then the chef's not really there. It's him showing it himself. Don't you find that funny? I find that hilarious. But anyway, back to The Office. What I'm saying about The Office is that's a series where I watched the UK version, and I loved it. I just love Ricky Gervais the way he is. Just like he's so, like there's this one scene where he's like he has to give a speech, like, well, he has to give like a lecture on how to find a job and a job interview and stuff, and he goes to him and he just says, get out, there's the door, go on, just get out. And then this cleaner lady's like, oh, have you finished? And he goes, no, we haven't finished. Stuff like that. And the dance, come on, have you seen the dance? Oh, that's just great. That's great. And then the whole story where he literally gets fired, and then he still comes back into the office because he wants to be back in with all of his friends, and he's like, the guy's like, well, you don't work here anymore, mate. You need to leave. It's kind of sad in the end that he's been forced out. But then I thought to myself, I'll give the US version a try. And I thought, I'm not going to like this. But I started watching it, I was like, actually, this is not bad at all. I would say it's probably similar, like, in terms of how good it is compared to the UK version. But the UK version is only like 14 episodes, something like that. And the US,
the American one goes on for ages.
Like 9 seasons. Yeah, I'm only on like season 2, so. But there's some but I think the success of that show is also, I noticed that Ricky Gervais is actually a producer of the US version, so he might have a bit of a hand on,
yeah, keeping it sane.
Yeah. So I am enjoying that one, and there are some American jokes, but they kind of apply, like, Ricky Gervais' vision of the way the jokes are dealt is kept the same in the US version. It's just a different kind of culture.
The thing is, it's like we as British people grow up knowing the American culture more than the Americans grow up knowing our culture, so we can join in and find certain aspects of American culture funny. If you've grown up watching Friends and everything, there's not as much British TV that gets exported to the Americans, that they know our culture. Our culture is just as foreign as the French culture or the Spanish culture. So that's just it's quite normal that like countries around the world know how Americans are because they spent 10 years watching Friends, watching Scrubs, watching Frasier, whereas Americans don't do the same in reverse. So we understand that garbage and trash means bin, but Americans have no idea what a bin is. So that's just the way the world is. You know, I get really annoyed when I'm playing a video game and it says colour with an O instead of an OU. You know, it's just these small things. Just these small things.
But it's nice to watch these series, and I gotta say, like, things that they put in the show, I honestly couldn't see them doing it now.
No, there's many things like that.
Well, I'll give you an example where, so the bloke, this office, the office guy, I think his name's Michael. He's in his office and he looks out the window and he sees a guy wearing a turban, and he's like, oh god, and then the guy starts walking towards the office. He's like, oh god, we're in trouble. Everyone turn off the lights. And you're like, what? It's like, how racist can you be? And like, there's no way something like that would be on TV now. And even I was like, this is really racist, really bad. And they're shutting off the lights, and the guy's like, he's trying to get in, and you can, stuff like that just would not exist anymore. And that's the beauty of some of these older shows. They can do more daring things, and they're not scared to. Where nowadays it's like, well, we can't say that, you can't do that, or if you do that, you're going to get so many complaints. No, but that's another discussion. I think
that's not a discussion for us to have, because we're not. I mean, let's face it, we're two white blokes. We're not in the entertainment industry.
Well, we are. We're doing a podcast, aren't we?
No, we're not making TV shows. Thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube and on most popular podcasting apps. Please feel free to drop us a like, review, comment or subscribe. We would be really grateful. Ta-ra! Tommy, are you talking into the back of your microphone?
No.
Oh, fuck's sake, Tommy!
What are you on about?
You idiot.
No! What have I done now? What have I done? It's gonna be fine, mate. Trust me.
It's not.
It will be. Alright, let me stop it and then I can hear it back.